beside me in case I can't get through this, but I think I can. I'm Teresa. I'm Gary's oldest daughter. I like to say sometimes that I was the prettiest and sometimes that I was the nicest, but he would never say I was the favorite of his 3 children, and he would never say I was the smartest, so that's okay, I'll take it. If you look closely at the ancient literal crest, you'll probably see the Latin words, "My pappy was a pistol, I'm a son of a gun." Okay, not likely, but my dad loved to sing that song. And as I typed this, I realized I've never heard any other version than the version that Daddy sang. And what a son of a gun he was. My dad believed that everything, and more importantly, everyone, has value. And in his truly brilliant mind, he could work out a plan to improve any gadget, repurpose any piece of old junk, and if you asked, and sometimes even if you didn't, he'd give you a few pointers on how you could improve yourself as well. In his last days, 2 nurses discussed his veins and how they searched his arms for a good vein to stick. Dad said, "I've probably got something in the truck that'll help." He probably did. I bet everyone here saw his truck. My brother's proud enough to drive his truck now. He says even though some folks know that Dad's not driving it anymore, they still get on out of the way when they see it coming. One of the medical assistants recalled that when she worked at Lowe's 10 years ago, Mr. Gary always wanted a deal. She even described his truck and shared how she and other workers would try to convince him he could not put one more thing on the back of that truck. And speaking of Lowe's, we can't think about Pop without thinking about fixing stuff. And one of Dad's favorite sayings was, "I can fix anything with duct tape." So last night, in true Pop fashion, as the grandkids shared stories and memories of Pop, we carefully folded and twisted colored duct tape into beautiful flowers to create the flower arrangement that you see next to his casket. Pop would be so proud. My daddy was a son of a gun for sure, but he was also a mama's boy. He told me once that in high school he decided he wanted to play football. So he went home and he asked his mama, "Mama, can I play football?" She said, "Sure, buddy, you can play football, but if the other team wants the ball, you let them have it." That's so funny. Also, I lost my place, so that's funny too. I believe the reason Dad fought off death so hard is that he wanted to make sure that his mama was taken care of in December. The biggest smiles I ever saw on Daddy's face were the times when he knew he made his mama proud. Other things made Daddy smile. If Daddy saw a truck pulling a nice boat, Dad would say, "If I had your boat and you had a feather up your nose, we'd both be tickled." Making money and even just thinking about new ways to make money made Dad smile. He enjoyed the time he spent cooking pork rinds at the flea market during Grandmother and Granddaddy's flea market years, and the lawnmower years when he and Granddaddy would sit out there for hours and repair lawnmowers and sell them for a profit. And then there were the rental property years that afforded him the free time that he'd always longed for and the money to enjoy it. On his last night, we sang an old Charlie Pride song, "Kalijah." I'd forgotten it, but Gina remembered it. In the song, 2 old Indian statues stand in a store together, and poor old wooden-head Kalijah never got a kiss from his Indian girl, Love. We loved singing that song with Daddy, and he loved that song. God saw fit to give my dad 2 amazing women to love him. One to walk alongside him through his youth and into middle age and raise his children, and the other to travel with him and enjoy new experiences, to get him back to church, and to take care of him through the most challenging years of his life. Jan, on behalf of my siblings, thank you for taking such amazing care of Dad for the last 22 years. The biggest smiles on Dad's face, though, were put there by people. I wrote most of this when Dad died in December and miraculously was resuscitated and lived to hear me read this to him. And I told him, I'm sorry, Dad, I forgot your siblings. What would you want to say? He said, I remember a conversation I had when Glenda, my sister, was in the hospital. And he was strong enough then to pound his fist, and he said, and I told God, don't let my sister die. And he didn't. In those younger years, Dad thought he could tell God what to do. In the later years, he realized God was in control. Next, he said to Mark, take good care of Mama. And then he added, without asking him, I already know he will. He loved his nieces and nephews. So proud to be a grandfather and a great-grandfather. He bragged about us all the time, bragged about you guys all the time. He was so proud of his kids, Gina, Chip, Greg, and Guy, too, and all of our accomplishments. But the one person who put the most smiles on Daddy's face was his Chip off the old block. He wrote a poem for Chip and sent it out as Chip's birth announcement. Some of you will remember it. Chip was born on 7/11/77 at 7 pounds 11 ounces. I mean, you can't let that one go. So Dad wrote, look out, Vegas, here I come. I'm a 7-pound 11-ounce son of a gun. And so the torch was passed. If you asked Dad how he was doing, he'd often reply, if I were any better, I'd be twins in his younger years. One of my favorite songs Dad used to sing is a song called Scarlet Ribbons, old Harry Belafonte song. In the song, a daughter prays for scarlet ribbons for her hair, and Dad searched all night. His heart broke because he couldn't find the ribbons. And when he got back home, the scarlet ribbons were there on the pillow. Dad didn't talk much deeply about spiritual things, but that song taught me about faith and prayer and miracles. The last time Dad got out of the bed in the hospital, I tried to help him. He said, I'm going to do this my way. So one of the songs we sang together there at the end was Elvis Presley. We sang a lot of Elvis Presley. We sang My Way together, and that was Daddy for sure. Dad loved to sing, and he was the best singer in the family. In his last days, we sang songs that I remembered him singing. We sang Granddaddy's favorite hymn at Calvary, and we sang Grandmother's favorite hymn, My God is Real, and we sang my favorite hymn, Blessed Assurance. We sang all of Elvis's favorite hymns. For several years now, when you asked Dad how he was doing, he would almost always reply, better than I deserve. And if you had a minute and wanted to listen, he'd tell you all the ways that God blessed him. Dad was generous to those who were in need, whether it was letting a tenant slide on their rent, and now Chip knows how much you let him slide, giving a used car to a needy family, or sitting in a chair and hugging kids in Haiti on a mission trip. Dad's altruistic kindness demonstrated God's love. Another song that Dad liked to sing, and I realized I've never heard anybody else sing this one but Dad either. One door and only one, but yet the sides are two. I'm on the inside. On which side are you? Dad's on heaven's side. In his last days, he had moments when he would awake and describe a door. And all the people were telling him to go through the door. He couldn't figure out for days how to get through the door. He described mountain streams and rivers, swimming in lakes. Just moments before he drew his last breath, I opened my Bible app to my verse of the day. It was from Isaiah. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be scorched. Dad was a Christian. His favorite song was Why Me, Lord? One of the lines says, tell me, Lord, if you think there's a way I can try to repay all I've taken from you, maybe, Lord, I can show someone else what I've been through myself on my way back to you. If you don't have certainty in faith today, and this is what Dad would want it, if you don't know which side of the door you'll be on, I'll tell you what, my sister and I were there in those last moments, and he saw heaven, his eyes wide open, his face all pain and stress gone, and it was majestic seeing it through his eyes. If you don't know for sure, then pray this prayer with me. Dear Lord, I believe in you. I believe in your Son. I believe your Son died on the cross and rose from the dead, taking on my sins. I want to live in a life in a way that lets others know that Jesus is my Savior. In Jesus' name, amen. You can pray that prayer anytime you want to if you're not sure. I leave you with words of one of Dad's last text messages to me. Dad wrote, "I'll always be in your corner, and may I add, may you always be close to Him."